Welcome to Tai Chi, the way to radiant health. My name is Jeff Cote, and I am the Occidental Taoist. In this show, we're going to practice some Tai Chi and Qigong and other Taoist internal and meditative practices. These practices enjoy a long history throughout all of China, and I've had the great opportunity to study with some wonderful teachers, and I want to share that with you. Hello again, and welcome back to Tai Chi, the way to radiant health. In this episode today, we're going to start with a very light warm-up, maybe only about 4 or 5 minutes of the counter swing series, each of them done just a few times, just to loosen up the body and get us ready. From this video on, we are going to encourage you to do a little bit of warm-up on your own with some of the work from our previous videos. This will enable your body to have a much more thorough warm-up. In the half-hour time frame that we have, we'd like to spend that time introducing new material and reviewing the previous week's material. So once we've completed our warm-up, we're going to do a review of what we did last week, the individual movements. I'll talk about some individual points that you should pay attention to, and we'll do the movements in repetition of each individual movement. But then we're going to also tie them together right at the end, and then we're going to go from there and introduce the new material, which is 2 more movements that should complete a little mini series that can be done, and it's done to both sides of the body. And so we'll show you a way to turn this 4-move sequence into an 8-move sequence that can be repeated over and over for as much practice as you would like. This provides a nice framework and introduction to Tai Chi, and we feel if you work with this for a little while, you start to get a lot of the underlying benefits because you begin to work on the principles instead of just spending all your time trying to learn new form movements. Once you've done that for a while, then it's recommended that you move on and begin to expand the form. So without delaying, we're going to continue on, starting with our light warm-up. Just like we always do, we start with that loose expansion, just pressing from the center and returning to the center. Just a few times, nice and slow, just to feel how you're pressing through your legs. Taking the moment to align your center line, and then we move right into the bouncing action. And from here we go into the counter swing. Remember, the lower body, the hips and legs are firmly rooted to the ground, though not held tight. The upper torso turns freely from the momentum of the arms. And then from this one, we move into a forward and back swing. This column swing where we're bouncing in the legs and swinging the arms. You can start to allow your shoulder blades to float a little bit, releasing tension. Remember, we're always trying to move from our center and pay attention to the relationship from the center to the ground. Keeping our center line upright and relaxed, and the body soft and supple. And we bring those forces to the center line and split into the counter column swing. And to finish, we bring it back to the center and drop tension. Just shake out the body. Now that's a pretty brief warm-up, and if I were practicing on my own, I'd want to do a lot more warm-up than that. But I want to make sure that if you're just tuning in, this is the first time you've seen it, that you get a chance to do at least a little bit of warm-up before we begin the rest of the program. In the last episode, we began with the Tai Chi Preparation Movement, which is Sleeping Dragon Awakens and Finds His Root. So I want to review that real briefly, cover a couple of the essential points again, just to remind you of those, and then do a few of those in repetition just to get a feel of the movement. So we start with our feet together, our body centrally equalized along the center line. Our weight is in the triangle of both feet, which is the load-bearing portion of the foot, evenly distributed. Tailbone is relaxed and down, back is relaxed. The core is gently but firmly supported. The three dantians, or the three centers of operation in the head, middle of the chest, and lower abdomen, are aligned vertically to help align the center line. We relax the shoulders down, and we begin on the inhale. As we inhale, we sink into the legs, the hands come to the center line, step out to shoulder width, heel down, turn the foot in, shift, bringing the hands out to the side, and dropping tension downward. So let's look at that again. We start with the feet together. Now, instead of talking you through it, we're just going to do it one time together, quietly, focusing on our alignment. Remember, this is an outreaching from the center. We're expanding. We're always working with that sense of the expanding sphere. So we're outreaching and receiving from the center. We begin receiving, sinking into the legs. We always want to be working with the breath here. Now, there's an interesting component to the nature of the meridians from Chinese medical thought. The yin meridians of the leg are on the inside of the leg, and the qi in the yin meridians flows up from the feet up into the torso. The yang meridians of the leg come from the back and the upper torso down the back and sides of the legs. We can make use of our movement and our awareness to just become aware of those regions of the body. So when I begin with this and I begin to sink and inhale, I always let my awareness start at the feet, move up the insides of the legs, come up to the center line to establish my center line. Then when I'm in this position and I'm focusing on the exhale, I let my awareness move down around the outside of the body and down. And this helps my mind to start to move in the flow with the meridians themselves, which will augment my ability to follow the qi. Tongue lightly touches the roof of the mouth. Breath is going to move in and out through the nose. We're going to do this move again, keeping in mind what I just said. Now from this move, that was the preparation move for the whole set. The first real move of the form in terms of being part of a sequence, because that preparatory move is done in almost everything we're going to do later on. Not just the Tai Chi, but some of the Qigongs we're going to do. So the first move of the Tai Chi form is Tai Chi Beginning, and it progresses from the end of our preparatory move. We begin with that sense of expansion from the center. The hands go up and out in conjunction with the breath. Then they come in and down, and I sink back into my legs. Now, a lot of Tai Chi styles will tell you not to move up and down in any of your moves. You should always be perfectly level. And there'll be times we'll be doing that in this set, and there'll be times we won't be. At the beginning, particularly in this move, I like to teach people to get that feel of expansion because I want you to learn to feel how the body is coordinated in its action. Eventually, as you get better and better, you can use less and less leg power in terms of movement, but still have the feel of expanding through the legs. But at the beginning, for beginners, it's much better, from my experience, for them to get the feel of that press and release, and then eventually learn to let that be a softer, subtler action. So from Tai Chi Beginning, we have this position. We're going to do this a number of times now. We can make it sort of like a Qigong and just repeat it. Now remember, you're not just trying to get the sense of expansion to the front, you're trying to also get the sense of expansion behind you and to both sides, that your whole center is expanding and you're moving with it. more time. Now from here, the next move in the form as we learned it is deflecting left and right, or deflecting right and left, because we learned both sides. We're going to do both sides a number of times. We're going to start with the deflecting left, because that's the side we start with in the form. Shift and turn to the left. Remember, you're trying to have a sense of one leg is receptive and one leg is expansive. So as I shift, I'm pressing into the ground with the leg I'm leaving, and I'm receiving, and I'm actively paying attention to that receiving here, because again, I don't want to push myself up on top of my tension. So as I receive into that left leg and rotate towards it, my whole body shifts and turns. The hand rotates with my torso, both of them, and I move up into this position. That's deflecting left. Let's do that again. Receive into the left, shift and rotate to the left. Left hand comes up, facing out. Right hand comes out, facing up. Then turn the foot, rotating the sphere of my personal space from my center. It's like I'm turning the whole thing. Right hand or left hand goes out and right hand comes back. Put the foot down and shift. Okay. Let's put that together again. From the end of Tai Chi Beginning with deflecting left and right. To repeat, we just keep the foot where it is, shift and turn. Rotating left and right. Trying to get a sense of this entire sphere moving and turning, turning and moving. Right? So as I move now, I get the hand motions, deflecting left and right. Left and right. Here I'm ending 60 to 70% in the right leg on the triangle of the right foot, 30 to 40% in the left at the end of this movement. But again, the knee is not collapsed. Talked about that in the last episode. Keep that open so that it's receptive, and I move in, I can become receptive here quickly. Now I'm expansive here, moving to 60 to 70% into the left leg. 60 to 70% into the right leg. One more time. Deflecting left and right. Now we put that together from the very beginning, and we've got a nice little flow that goes through just a couple moves. Then we're going to add in the new pieces. So we start Tai Chi Preparation. Sleeping dragon awakens and finds his root. Tai Chi Beginning. Deflecting left and right. So now we're ready to learn the new pieces. To begin the very next move, this next move is called roll back, compress, and expand. Now from here we're moving from the deflect right position on this side, and we're going to bring the left leg in. Then we're going to bring it out at a 45-degree angle. Turn the toes forward and place them down. Okay. So the hand position will not change. They will be here. We'll begin with stepping, placing the foot down. As the foot comes down, I'm going to allow the weight to sink and pull me into turning towards the back leg a little. Notice my weight has not shifted at all. It's just sinking. Then as I go to shift forward, I want my center line to go straight forward between my 2 feet, not go diagonally from foot to foot. I want my weight to just come straight forward between the two as I shift forward and turn, turning my center line. So there's the roll back, compress towards the center, then the center expands again. Always paying attention to the expansion through the back leg, because that's what drives me forward, and I've got to have receptivity here. But this will feel very different from what we did before. Before we had a direct shift from leg to leg. Here, The legs are on either side of where our shift is actually occurring, and we're adding a complexity in that we're not only shifting the center line straight forward, but we're rotating that center line as we do so. There's a lot of little pieces that have to fit together here. So we compress. As I shift forward, remember, don't go towards the leg, go between the 2 feet. Straight forward, like so. To repeat, I simply bring the hand up, shift again straight back, rotate, compress, shift forward, rotate and expand. To repeat, I come up, shift straight back. You'll see my center line goes straight back and rotates, straight forward and rotates. This is what I want to avoid, this diagonally across maneuver, which is actually very tricky to avoid. It took me a long time of really sitting down. I literally stood where I had a line in the floor, like a wood floor, or I was in a gym one time practicing too, where there was a line, and I would always align my center line on that line. And then I would move back and I would check, am I still along that vertical or that horizontal line, or have I crossed it diagonally? And that will teach you a lot about how much holding you might be doing in your hips. One of the big things, as I've mentioned before, is we want to free up the hips. So from here, we roll back, we compress, shift straight forward, and open. One more time, back, down, press, and open. Now we're going to go back real briefly. What we're going to do is we're actually going to set up the movement to the other side so you can see how it works on both feet, or on both sides. So what I want to do is I'm going to set this up with Tai Chi Beginning. Instead of deflecting left and right, we're going to deflect right and then left, and then show you how the same move is done to the other side, so that you start to get the sense of how this form is repeated to the other side. So we'd start with the Tai Chi Beginning. And instead of deflecting left, we deflect right first. Then we turn the left foot. And shift in. Then we would step. Again, come out, 45 degree, turn the foot, place it down. Now you're ready to roll back, compress, and expand to the front. To repeat, we turn up, roll back, compress, expand. Roll back, compress, and expand. One more time. Roll back, compress, and expand. That should give you the sense of how each of those is done up to this point. Now the last move of this little mini sequence that we're going to learn to each side is called Buddha's Warrior Attendant Pounds the Mortar. That is a mouthful. It comes from the Chen style of Tai Chi. It's a classical recentering move. You'll see that there's a certain logic here in the basic move. If you think about it in these terms, first we have up and down, then you have left and right, then you have backwards and forward, and then we return to the center. And that is the centering movement in this last move. Buddha's Warrior Attendant Pounds the Mortar seems like a very simple maneuver, and I'll show you the main movement and sequence. But then I'm going to talk about some little details that are important. One of the things we want to learn to do is not fall into our weight, right? Or fall into our feet. We always want to place our feet and then shift our weight into it with precision and consciousness and conscious awareness. That way we never get in the habit of falling and just catching ourselves with our feet, which is how a lot of people walk, and it's ultimately not a good idea, and it's one of the problems that people face as they age, maintaining balance. They're really not used to being imbalanced or what balance feels like when they're walking. They're usually just moving so forward, they're just in a controlled fall and their feet keep up. But as you age, of course we all know we slow down a little bit and our feet can't always keep up. So if we develop habits now of always feeling our weight going straight down, we'll have a much better control of that process. So we go from that roll back, compress and expand, into the Buddha's warrior attendant pounds the mortar. First thing is to allow the left leg to become receptive. Shift your weight completely into the left. Place the right foot lightly on the ground, but don't put any weight in it. The right hand comes up, just brushing past the fingertips. The left hand will turn palm up. The right hand will turn into what's called a butterfly fist. My teacher, Dr. Hua, used to have me practice this with an egg. And it's called butterfly fist because you're imagining sort of holding a butterfly and not crushing it with your hand. So it's hollow in the center. Now, Dr. Hua taught me to do this to expand the hand outward so that the hand would protect the soft, empty space on the inside. And that's why he had me practice it with an egg. So once we get that butterfly fist position, then we lift the hand and foot, and we're going to drop them, but I'm not going to drop my weight into them yet. I'm going to drop them, and as soon as that foot comes in contact with the floor, that's when I shift between the feet. Now, at first, it's going to feel like you're breaking it up into two separate movements, but eventually, as you get very familiar with the feel of that and the timing behind the impact and the shift, you'll be able to make it feel like one contiguous motion, but it'll never feel like you're falling into your foot doing this, because that's literally falling. But instead, it looks like this. And it's a slide over, right at the moment of contact. Let's look at that again from the roll back, compress, and expand. Bring the hand up, no weight in the right foot, down, lift, and drop. Same thing with the other side. Right foot is forward, left foot is back. You'll notice I have shoulder width. If I were to bring my back foot up forward and turn it, my feet would be shoulder width apart. This is why when I step out, I'm always trying to step out at a 45-degree angle so that I've always got lateral shoulder width. Now here I did the compress and expand. So now I bring the left hand and left foot up. Up, left hand into the butterfly fist. And I do the same thing. Buddha's warrior attendant pounds the mortar. One more time on that side. We start shoulder width. Back foot is 30 to 45 degrees out. Weight's 60 to 70% in the front leg. I've just done roll back, compress, and expand. And I move right into Buddha's warrior attendant pounds the mortar. Now, what you can see is this sequence is repeatable, first to one side, then to the other, and you've got a nice little mini 8-move form. Let's go through this. I'll talk you through the individual movements. We'll go through the flow of it, 1 through 4, then 1 through 4 to the other side, and you'll see what I mean. First, we start off with our preparatory movement of Sleeping Dragon awakens and finds his root. Then we've got Tai Chi Beginning. Deflecting left and right. Step. Roll back. Compress and expand. Buddha's warrior attendant pounds the mortar. We go right back into that Tai Chi Beginning, which, since our hands are rolling out instead of already starting out here, becomes often called in the form Tai Chi Reverse. But it really is the same movement. Then we deflect right and left. We step 45, put the foot down, roll back, compress and expand. And Buddha's warrior attendant pounds the mortar with the left hand. And close. Now that's a nice little move form to each side that can be repeated over and over because you're going first to one side, then the other. The same sequence of movements. You could do this, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times and turn it into a 40 move form. It's very short. It's really only 4 moves. Doing it to each side lets you start to regulate the 2 sides of the body, start to get a little bit more control over the weak side. I'm very right hand dominant, so I really liked to work the left side. And when I would practice at the beginning, I ended up practicing probably twice as much with my left as I did with my right. And if you have a side that's very dominant, I recommend that. Perhaps you're a left-hander and your left side is very dominant and you need to work your right hand more or the right side more. Go ahead and do that side twice as often. All of Tai Chi is a very personal walk with your practice. A lot of times I get asked the question of what makes somebody very good at Tai Chi, and the answer I've got for you is time and exploration and consciousness. The more aware you are, the more consciousness you bring to your practice, and the more often you do it and immerse yourself over time in it, the better you're going to be. The beautiful part about Tai Chi is even people with the most natural talent and gifts can only go but so far without the work. Somebody with the least amount can go just as far by just immersing themselves in patient, consistent practice. Speaking of patient, consistent practice, let's do this one more time. We're going to start with our feet close together. Begin with Sleeping Dragon Awakens and finds his root. Never hurry. Let each move take its time. Tai Chi Beginning. Never rushing to the next move. Everything's got an origin, a crescendo, a climax, a denouement, and a finish. Deflecting left and right. Turn the foot. Step. Roll back. Compress and expand. Buddha's warrior attendant pounds the mortar. Tai Chi Reverse, which is just opening the hands back to Tai Chi Beginning. Again, no rush. Letting your breath move smoothly with your movements. Deflecting right and left. Step. Roll back. Compress and expand. Buddha's warrior attendant pounds the mortar. And close. I hope that you enjoy this sequence and you take the time to just practice it over and over. There's a lot of things you can learn about it. What happens a lot of times when you begin to practice is you learn the movements and you think that you've got it. I went through this and I thought I had it. But as I began to practice more and more, and my teachers would encourage me to continue to work with simple, basic movements more often and longer and in more repetition, I began to observe a lot of things that I didn't observe when I first started. One of the primary things we want to learn to do is to feel the flow of the movement and any internal resistance we have or hold on to while we're doing the movement. If there's any internal resistance at all, your job is to dissolve that into the flow of the movement. And the only way to learn how to do that is to simply keep doing it. Discovering where you're holding, where you're fighting, where you've got tension anywhere in your being, mind or body, and simply letting it go with the flow of your breath. This is one of the fundamental components of the meditative practice of Tai Chi Chuan. Thank you very much. Shusha. Thank you for joining me on the path to radiant health, long life, and a peaceful, happy heart.